Hey there, it's Fight here with the video where I'm going to show you how to replace the single live field by a big box that in this case has of course some nonsensical text in it. Peter Pan keeps flying around the office, but that's really what I typed in. That was my answer, and the big news is that I can now go to a, come on, my space doesn't work. My space doesn't work. Right, so this is my big problem here. The big news is I can now type over several lines. It's nice and big, people see what they're typing in, and as a result, hopefully, they're encouraged to type more than they would if they were to type in here. You know, this is my single line and blah 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 blah, and then when you get to the end of the line, it starts scrolling away and it's not very nice. So what we need to do is basically we first need to get to, well actually what the process is. I need to find the source code, the HTML that represents this. And this is where we've got some fantastic news. Kartra does no strange magic, right? It does a very simple, hey look, I know what the source code is for this piece of code here, namely my opt-in form. I'm just placing it in this page, and as a result we can very easily modify this. The bad news of course is you still need to fiddle with a bit of HTML. So the process is quite simple. You go and you create an opt-in form. Where is it? Here's my opt-in field. My favorite is this big one here. I'm going to go put it in here. I edit my form. I select the one I want, namely this Ask Campaign one. And here we go. We're done, right? So there's my opt-in form with a single line. I now go and publish this page. And now I can look at the source code. And basically what we're doing is we're looking at the source code on this new page, and we are copying it because now we can go and modify it manually. You can't go in, unfortunately, you can't go into the actual form and modify it there. We have to go in and copy this code out and then modify it afterwards. So here we go, that's our page, there's a single line. I press Ctrl U on the PC, I don't know what it is on the Mac, and I look for my form. If you know HTML, you know what to look for. Otherwise, this is what you do. You press, you search. In this way, in Chrome, it's Ctrl F, and I look for this text up here. You know, bracket, pointy bracket, whatever the term is, form. That's what I search for, and there it is. So this input form is called form. That's where it starts, and it ends at. Probably the easiest way is to search for pointy bracket and then slash form. So this is where it ends. So this entire form goes across a couple of pages from here, form to down here where it ends. Now that's the actual functionality. The styling is in the 3 lines before it. So what you need to do is you copy these 3 lines plus the form all the way down to form plus the 3 lines afterwards. So these 3 div lines, they need to be in there as well. So take those lines, Ctrl C to copy this whole thing, and we go back to our page where we now say, you know what, I don't want to embed my form. I'm going to chuck that out. Instead, let me move this up so you see what I'm doing. I'm going to go down here on the left hand side to my code, and I say I want to have one of these embeddable codes, and I'm going to embed it right where I just had my form. Click on here, edit style, and insert it. Up here it says what you need to do. Basically, in between these 2 divs, you insert that whole piece of code. You save it, and it looks exactly the same as before. And that's kind of what I mentioned by the good news is Kartra doesn't do any stupid magic. It literally, in the form you created in your forms, that's literally the code that is being embedded here. So now we need to go in and edit this. We want to go in and replace the single line by, where's my double line? There, by this big box. And what we're doing is quite simply, and it's all relative. Simple is relative. If you know HTML, it's simple. If you don't, it's not that simple. I give you the fundamental principles here. What we're looking for is something that's called input text equals something that has a certain text in it, namely I typed in what is my biggest obstacle. So there's a placeholder in there that's the biggest obstacle. But really what we're doing is we're replacing a very simple input field by a very simple text area. That's really what we're trying to achieve. Now in practice what you'll find is there's all kinds of stuff, and one of the important stuff things is this here. there's a name in there, and that's basically where Kartra stores the content of whatever people type in. My biggest obstacle is that Peter Pan is flying around my office. It gets stored in an internal variable custom, in my case, 11, right? Underscore 11. This will be different for you. So what we need to do is we figure out what is that number for you, so we can then take this name equal custom 11 and type it into our text area, where we say, well, name equal, whatever, custom 28, whatever that variable is for you. What you'll also notice is there's a whole type of stuff here, autocomplete and classes and data sanitation, etc. And then when we create that text area, well, there's some other stuff in here, namely style and on focus and what is all this stuff. Right, I'll give you the very quick summary. A standard text area, a lot of people, what they do is, well, a standard way of specifying the size of this text area, I want this to be 60 whatever columns and 10 rows, is to go in and type in, rows equals whatever 10 and cols equals whatever 60. There are two problems with this. First of all, it looks ugly because it's fixed and you never know what device people are looking at or using your form on. Plus, it doesn't actually work in Kartra. The columns and rows, when you specify them like this, they kind of show up as nothing. And that's why we go in and use this here. We use this style element and we say, I'm going to go for 100% width, which is the width of your form. So, in this case, it'd be the entire width of this form. I'm just going to go for 100%, and I'm going to go for a certain height. This number here you can change. I've gone for 8, kind of, looks quite nice. You can change this to anything you like. And I'm also using this font size 0.8 rem. Where the heck does that come from? Well, actually, it comes from here. In my text at the top, I am using a certain font size, namely this here. The font size is 0.8 rem. That's what I'm using by default. And that's why I've gone in here and I've typed in 0.8 rem. So it's in line with everything else people see on my screen. That's where that number comes from. And then, there's some text in here. And the only thing that's kind of weird is this one here. The on focus is blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to copy all that code down below so you can copy it in. All that says is, in the beginning, there is some text in my box, namely, what's your biggest obstacle? And when people click on that box, on focus, then, if it's still the default value, then replace the current value of the box by nothing. Mainly a delete, meaning it deletes this text, so people don't have to manually delete what's your biggest obstacle and then type in that text. That's really what we're doing. So, what we need to do is find this thing here, along with two more things, right? On my page, what you see is there's this sort of type thing you can type in here, and there's the asterisk that it's compulsory. But honestly, I haven't figured out how to create a nice representation just like that with my text box. If you're a CSS wizard and you can tell us how to do it, fantastic, share down below. But at the moment, I've just removed them. So I have a box here because if you don't remove it, it kind of floats around somewhere down here and, doesn't look nice. So we're going to go in here into our lovely box down here where we now have HTML. We edit this thing. There it is. And we need to search for biggest obstacle. So at this point, it gets, unfortunately, a little bit complicated. So this biggest obstacle tells me where my input is. It's basically here from input to wherever the bracket closes, which is round about here. Unfortunately, there are a number of elements around it that are hard to position, don't make sense. So as you can see, for example, here's the asterisk with the opt-in, so that needs to go out as well. There is the sort of line icon, the pencil thing that needs to go out. And for some reason, if I leave in this div beforehand, this Kartra opt-in controls, opt-in giant, Kartra opt-in icon, the text, my default text, namely this what's your biggest obstacle, gets shifted inside the box. So that needs to go out as well. But of course, if we have an opening div, I need to close this div here. So I'm going to go and find this opening div here and then go all the way down to this closing div and remove everything from here. So that needs to go out. The one thing to remember is there's a name in here, custom_11. Good. That is your number. Whatever it says there, that's what you need in a second. So all of this goes out, and that's the location where we now put our text area. So where's my text area? Here it is. There's where the text area starts. You go in and you replace this custom, whatever your number is. If it's 28, you put in 28 here. In my case, it's 11, because that's what I had in there. And I now, hopefully, actually, I'm going to quickly paste this into Notepad just to make sure I don't have any fancy odd formatting from Word. So copying it, going back to my text and put it in here. All looks good. Save, and with a bit of luck, there we go. We now have a field up here that says what's your biggest obstacle, as opposed to the small box. Okay, now we go and publish. I grab this link, visit the page, and there you go. My text, blah, 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 blah. There's the box. And by the way, you'll notice that I use one type of font up here. My favorite is the Georgia family. I just love that font family. There are actually nicer ones, but Georgia is included in here, and I don't want to do any fancy messing around. But anyway, there's a Georgia font family, and then suddenly the opt-in form has a different font family. And I actually like that, because this up here is me talking. That's my conversation, and now my site visitors are talking, and they're talking in a different language. So I actually use that on purpose here. So anyway, as you can see here, now is my new page. What's your biggest obstacle? And with a bit of luck, when I click on here, it disappears. So, this is interesting, isn't it? My autocomplete. I've got so many autocomplete things, roboforms, etc. It now wants to complete this field, but hey, my biggest obstacle is, let me think. I don't know. Is it snow? And so on and on and on. So all of this stuff goes in here. Yes, I do this. Yes, I do that. My name is autocomplete, and my test email for today is Senticosa plus BC. No, not 02. I've already used that today. 03 at googlemail.com. Submit. And if I now go and find that test lead, there's BC's, by the way, awesome here, Kartra, the speed at which this works. Before this, I've been using Drip, and Drip is fantastic, don't get me wrong, but you'd be sitting there going refresh, 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 and here it's boom, there it is, thank you very much. So, my biggest obstacle is, hey, let me think, I don't know, is it snow? There it is. And my answers, and everybody is happy. Well, I am happy. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty happy. And let me tell you, it took quite a while to figure this out. The first thing I did is, because I couldn't, or I tried the rows and columns for the this thing here. Instead of using width and height, I couldn't embed it, so I embedded it in a separate area on the page. And incidentally, if you want to do that, you could do that. You could split. No, that's not it. Where is it now? That's my thank you page. As you can see, this is now kind of embedded in this form. You could restructure this and basically have this input box somewhere up here, some more text, and then the rest of your input form. That's possible, but then you basically end up with what I had to do beforehand, which is connecting the forms with different ways. If that's what you want to do, reach out to me and I'll show you how to do it. It would be confusing because there's more, more HTML required. And really, I reckon 99% of people want this here. They want this nice little box up here, immediately followed by the rest of the opt-in form. Opt-in, thank you very much, we're all done. So there you go. That's it in a very big nutshell, how to replace this, no, not this, single line by a nice big box. And like I said, if you're a CSS guru and you can find out for the rest of us how to do the nice sort of rounded corners automatically, adapted to the style of the rest of this. I know how to add rounded corners to this, but what I would love to see is, automatically the same font size, the same colors, the same, everything, the exact same font, and I don't know how to do it. This is good enough for me. Ready, go, do Ask campaigns. Alrighty, cheers, bye.